It's been 5 years since I last saw my mom. It's been 11 years since I last saw my dad and my brothers. My family and I moved to the Gambia because of the civil war in Sierra Leone. I was about 6, 7 years old when that happened. I was young, but I remember. I remember almost being recruited as a child soldier. I remember when the house we were seeking refuge in was almost burned down to the ground. I remember my father going off with a bunch of rebels with huge AK-47 guns to negotiate our survival. I remember. I remember my mother running with my 2-month-old brother at her back, scaling walls and fleeing the sound of gunfire. I remember our family being separated from each other as we fled on foot for several miles in an active war zone. I remember how we walked across the border to another country. I remember that my family and I were extremely fortunate to have fled with our lives. It was and has been only through God's grace that we are where we are. We settled in the Gambia and have lived here ever since.
بركة في دنيا هنانا نينا بيجيشي دي بركة بركة في دنيا هنانا بركة في دنيا هنانا يشون كري جي جي في تبت يشون أبي سندي أبي سي رشير أي كوجكا وسوقو أبي سي جي وسوقو أنغو ألالا في دنيا بيجيشي دي ولا بركة في دنيا هنانا نينا بيجيشي دي
I left Gambia in 2010 to pursue my education, and since that time I have only been back in 2012 when I visited for a very short period of time. It was not easy, but I was able to get into medical school and complete my medical education. My mom was at my graduation and at the wedding ceremony, so she's already met her daughter-in-law, but my dad will be meeting her daughter-in-law for the first time, and both of them will be meeting their grandkids for the very first time. Our oldest daughter is about almost 3 years old, and our younger daughter is about 1.5 years old. So they'll be meeting them for the very first time in person. They've seen them through video calls and over the phone, but they've never actually met. When I last saw my brothers, they were just about my elbow. Now I hear they're all taller than me. I was able to meet one of my brothers when we passed through New York because he's studying in the US. But my other brothers are here in the Gambia, and I'll be meeting them after a very long time, and we will also be meeting their nieces for the very first time, as well as their sister-in-law. Our flight from Morocco was late into the night, so the kids fell asleep just before we landed actually. So it was quite difficult getting off the flight. We were the last of the plane because we had both kids, we had to carry both kids as well as our hand luggage, and we didn't have the stroller with us because we had already checked it in at the gate and it was going to be available at the baggage claim area. To further complicate matters, we had a small delay at the immigrations, some issue with visa coming into the country, but thankfully that was sorted out. And then I met my family for the first time after so many years. One of the dominant emotions that I felt was of relief. Just relief that they were well and healthy. In my line of work, being a medical doctor, being in the hospital all the time, seeing and attending to sick people, you grow to value health and well-being. Just general joy all around. And watch them interact with their grandkids for the first time, watch the grandchildren interact with their grandparents, their uncle, after speaking to them for so long over the phone, video calls, and now actually getting to meet them in person. Our story as a family is not the saddest story there is. I guarantee you that there are persons with far worse situations than I was in. This journey to Africa that me and my family has embarked on, while it's been a physical journey in a good sense of the word, it's also been a very emotional journey, coming back to roots, coming back to where I grew up. And sometimes in life, when you're heading someplace, I do not think that my journey is over. However, it has been refreshing to be able to stop, look back and recognize from how far I have come. Recognize the sacrifices of the generation before me. Recognize the sacrifices of my mother, my father, teachers, family, friends, people in general that I'm getting to see, meet, and just recognize and say, this person played an important part in my formation, in my development as a person, my education, not just formal academic education, but as a person, in the person that I have become. It is emotional in that sense, and it is very grounding. It's something that I've always done and like reflect on usually on these things to always keep you grounded. And this time I actually had the opportunity to actually take a physical trip that's almost like a pilgrimage of sorts to origins and to look back and to be able to say, Ebenezer, hasta aquí, Dios nos ha ayudado. If you've been following us along on this journey, say thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing to the channel. I hope and I pray that this can also be a source of inspiration to you, and you don't necessarily have to have gone through war to have things in your life that you can look back to be grateful for, people in your life that you can look back and be grateful for, and to appreciate where it is that you are now. Sometimes we have to stop and just step back and just look at how far that we've come and how far God has brought us. Thank you for watching. Like this video, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.